Hello again, and welcome back here at SMAO for just another panel where we're going to talk about international best practices and what Italy can learn from other ecosystems. So I'm Alessia and I'm going to be the moderator of just another panel where we're going to talk about international differences and what actually different ecosystems can teach us and our Italian startups. I have more than 10 years experience in startups in different countries. I lived in the UK 7 years. Then I worked in a scale-up in Germany, and now I'm back in Italy slightly before the pandemic, but also I'm still consulting and trying to give my contribution to the Italian ecosystem. So I'm happy to invite on stage my panelists, starting with Chris Kay from Canada Ventures. A big round of applause. Stay here. Then we have Fabio Lancellotti, investor at Aster. A big round of applause for Fabio as well. Then we have Alfredo Coppola, co-CEO at USMAC, US Market Access. A big round of applause. Alberto Zunzunegui, founding partner at Propelland. A big round of applause. And then we have Rose Ghamar, manager and talent development at DMZ. Cool. So we have a big, wide range of people representing a lot of different countries. And that's what is making me very exciting, because I love hearing from people with different experience. So we start from Chris. You can grab a mic, please, and introduce yourself and tell us what you do and what Canada Ventures does.
Hi there. Sorry? Good. Thanks for having me. So Canada Ventures, we're based in Canada. I live in Toronto. And what we do is we have about 100 different partners, VCs, super angels, literally all over the world. And we invest in companies outside North America. And we help those companies find a pathway into the broader North American market. We make a case that Canada is a great entry point into the broader North American market. So we have portfolio companies in Poland, Brazil, 2 in Canada, 1 originally from Pakistan, Singapore. So I spend a lot of time talking to other investors all over the world. Central and Eastern Europe are big markets for us, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. So yeah, excited to be here. Thanks.
I go on? All right. So nice to meet you. I'm Italian, by the way, but I live in Paris. I work for Aster. Aster is a VC that is investing across Europe, US, and Israel. We have several funds under management. Most of our investments go into early stage, mostly focusing on what is called today climate tech. So technologies, new business models that, let's say, should help the planet to, let's say, to get saved, to be saved to some extent, and to industries to, let's say, try to reach the 2030 and 2050 CO2 reduction, emission reduction objectives.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be back in Milano. My name's Alfredo Coppola. I sound Italian, but I'm fully Canadian, living in San Francisco, running a startup accelerator called US Market Access Center. We've been around for 13 years. We've accelerated more than 2,000 startups from 37 countries who all want to do business in Silicon Valley. 18% have raised more than $5 billion in capital. We've had a lot of acquisitions valued at over $4 billion. And I'm so excited because yesterday we launched a new initiative called Prospera Women, which is a global community that's designed to support female founders worldwide. That's how I'm going to spend my next 8 years, is helping the underserved market of talented female founders to become successful globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfredo. Salve a tutti. I'm afraid I'm not Italian either. I'm Alberto. I'm a founding partner of Propelland. Propelland is a strategic design company. We were founded in San Francisco 10 years ago. We basically help companies transform and grow. Most of our engagements are with big corporations, but we also help small ones and startups. So we started in California 10 years ago, and we grew. We are all over in Europe and Latin America, in Asia too. So it's great to be here with these colleagues to talk about innovation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rose Ghamar. I'm the Manager of Talent Development at the DMZ. So we are a global tech incubator. We help startups grow and scale their businesses into world-class companies, and we do this by providing access to coaching, capital, customers, and community. We've been around since 2010. We have a vast network of partners who we work with to get this done. We now operate in 10 different countries over the world, including Japan, Egypt, Bahamas, Caribbean, and more. And we really understand that building a business is hard, and we meet a lot of great entrepreneurs who have incredible ideas, but really don't have the right kind of support system, tools, and resources to really build successful companies. And so that's where we come in and provide that mentorship, support, and direct people to the right kinds of support systems to be able to build great companies. And that's really our mission, to change entrepreneurs' lives.
Nice. Thanks a lot for your introductions. I will start with Chris, and I was quite curious to learn about his experience in the different ecosystem, not only in Europe, which is, I think, is going to be the key part of this panel, because you guys are from Canada, from the US. So I will really want to get more knowledge around what's happening outside Europe. So as you said, that you are investing also in all different global ecosystem. What can you tell us about, for example, Southeast Asia versus Europe? Where do you see the trend is going? How do you see this ecosystem developing? And how have you seen the changing also happening?
Yeah, I mean, I can start very east and kind of work over. So I've noticed, like in South Korea and Japan, there's been a lot of new government initiatives that's spurred some really cool startup ecosystems, specifically in South Korea. The problem with that is it's actually driven up valuations really high. So there's like a 9-to-1 funding matching from the South Korean government. And so South Korean companies are really great, well-built technology, but the valuations get pretty high, and I'm starting to see that happen in Japan a little bit as well. Starting to see really, I mean, the best way to describe it is really cool technology, but the businesses aren't quite as mature, around the technology. Moving a little bit further over, Singapore is just absolutely dominating some really incredible companies. Great backing from GIC, which is kind of surprising. We have a $700 billion, sovereign wealth fund who's been able to support startups. I lived in Hong Kong for a couple of years. Hong Kong's a really odd place because it's a very mercantile culture. It's not a very entrepreneurial culture. The tech talent isn't really there. The engineering talent isn't really there. But it's great business minds. Huge amounts of money. I mean, you can throw a rock and hit a billionaire. The VC ecosystem is best described as family offices masquerading as VCs. But I'm way more bullish on Singapore than on Hong Kong. China used to be a major place, especially in Shenzhen. That's the interesting bifurcation, the trade issue between the US and China. I mean, we'll see how that plays out. Really bullish on India, and it's had a bit of a peak. I'm really bullish on Pakistan, and I'm bullish on Indonesia and Vietnam. Vietnam, I think, is a major macro tailwind, and I think there's going to be, that they're starting to move into some of the semiconductor industry, and I can see that kind of spinning out into the tech talent. I mean, that's what happened in Taiwan. So, yeah, I mean, I'm spending a lot of time trying to understand Vietnam a little bit better, and Thailand. I mean, we've looked at a ton of companies in India, and we made one investment in Pakistan. So, yeah, some pretty cool things happening, like right across Asia.
Nice, thank you very much. And Fabio, I think that you spend the most of your experience actually in France. It's so that you're based in France. I think that also France has seen as a big acceleration in the past 5 years, I would say, because I was in the UK and I really saw Brexit hitting the UK and France basically evolving like a fast, crazy velocity around tech and startups, especially as happens in other countries, as we said in Japan, push a lot by the government. What's your take on that, and how do you saw that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. Just to give some numbers to put in context, so the last full year results that are available, so 2022, show about 12 billion euros invested in startup companies in France across about 700 deals. Okay, in comparison, this is probably close to 8 to 10x what is happening here in Italy. I think you're right. I mean, there was a big acceleration in the last 5 years. I would say that probably 3 or 4 years ago, these numbers was half of it. So the right number in terms of amount invested was about 5 to 6 billion. And the main acceleration came mostly from later stage rounds. So about 50% of this 12 billion were raised by companies, let's say, raising deals, investment rounds above 50 million. And most of it was driven by international investors. Most of it was driven especially from US investors starting to invest in France, which is a relatively new trend. And one of the reasons, maybe there are several, but the one reason I like to pick is the increased availability of talent. The talent pool in France has increased big time. And I think it's happening something that I think in Silicon Valley started to happen about 20 years ago. The phenomenon of startup mafia. I think that the name of mafia is probably the only positive meaning that I know is this one. And basically, the name was invented about, I guess, 15, 20 years ago in US. And the most famous mafia was the PayPal mafia. Basically, the concept of employees out of a successful startups, typically a unicorn, going out and raise capital for their own startup. And again, out of this startup that becomes a unicorn, other employees go out and raise their own startups. This is happening in France. It's a very recent phenomenon. There are already 2, 3 generations of experienced entrepreneurs that come from a successful story, which doesn't mean that only successful stories teach things. Also, failure stories teach things. But I think this is one of the reasons where I feel that US international investors in general are looking at France with much more interest compared to the past. Availability of talent. So if I can say just one message out of it regarding Twitter, because we are in Italy, I think it takes time to build really an interesting and attractive ecosystem. And from what I have observed in the last 3, 4 years happening in Italy, I think you guys are on the right track.
We just need more money, basically. Alfredo, I would love to learn more about the program that you're building for women-led startups. I think that the topic that you were bringing around minorities and talent that has always been a little bit put in the corner, let's say. Now it's extremely getting important, especially if you're talking about talent. We never want to miss out on talent anymore. So I would love to learn more about what you're building.
Yes, thank you very much. So, you probably heard the numbers. Certainly most of the women in the audience have heard the numbers. The 500 billion was invested by VCs last year, and women got just over 2%. And, there are a whole bunch of reasons why, but we don't need to go into those details. But those numbers really motivated us in our team in Silicon Valley. So what needed to get done, we needed to identify the funds in Silicon Valley that we're willing to commit to a percentage that could be devoted to supporting female founders. So we built that community over the last 18 months, and that gave us the incentive to build chapters worldwide. Why did we build these chapters? Just to make it easier for a talented female founder to do business globally. Our chapter in Dubai is curious about how to do business in Japan. Excuse me. And now they can leapfrog traditional paths and just go directly and work with the chapter in Tokyo. It's really difficult for a startup to become successful, and it's really, really difficult if you are a woman. And that's messed up. one of the most exciting things that happened for our organization, we recruited a globally successful CEO. Her name is Charlotte Sellis. I would love for her to have been here today. I'm behind the scenes making deals with VCs, and Charlotte is leading this new division of our company globally. So I hope that a year from now, we're going to have more than 50 chapters worldwide, and I can't wait for you to meet Charlotte. And if you want to be involved in this initiative to support female founders, please let me know. Come and see me after the talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alberto, based on your experience, I think that you can bring a little bit of a shift back to corporates. In the previous panels, we talked a lot about collaboration between corporates and startups, how this collaboration can keep going, and what does it mean for startups working for corporates. What's your take on that?
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to come to places like this one because you can feel there's still two worlds around. You know? So it's the corporate world and the startup world. And sometimes it feels like oil and water, you know what I mean? So it's something that we have to still battle around. The match, it's great, but you have to work it out. And for me, it's like going to the doctor. You know? Sometimes you go to a doctor and the doctor tells you that you need to walk 30 minutes a day to stay healthy. You cannot outsource that walk. I mean, it's you that have to walk. But sometimes the doctor tells you that you need to play tennis once in a week. You need a partner to play tennis. And you need a partner that, you know, it's compatible with you, it will make you better, and both of you will grow together. I think that's kind of how I see corporate and open innovation. You know? There's something that, in terms of innovation, the corporation has to do by itself. You don't change associating with a third party. It's you that have to change. It's you that needs to transform yourself, and it's your growth on stake. That's corporate innovation. And sometimes that corporate innovation, it's better to be done inorganically, partnering with a third party. That's when the magic appears, and a corporation and a startup make a great match. I think that we should take that into account because not in every case that happens that way. It generates a lot of frustration to startups that they feel that the match is not working. And at the same time, corporations feel that having a great M&A strategy or nurturing a lot of startups is the way they should be innovating and is going to prepare themselves for the future, and that's not true. So I think that's a good lesson to start with.
Thank you. Rose, I think that we are getting back to the topic about ecosystem with you because you are bringing here your experience in Canada. So we'd love to learn more about what's unique about the Canadian ecosystem from a tech startup point of view, but also if you want to bring some of the corporate experience that you also have at DMZ, that's also cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say one thing that's unique about the Canadian ecosystem, innovative ecosystem, is our university-based incubators and accelerators. So we have a wide variety of incubators and accelerators that are based out of universities and colleges that create nice little innovation hubs in Ontario, Quebec, Vancouver. And DMZ is actually part of Toronto Metropolitan University, and we were ranked the top university-based incubator by UBI Global, which is a research group based out of Sweden, which maps out and ranks different accelerators based on different KPIs, such as access to networks, access to funding, competency enhancement and development, economic enhancement, talent retention, performance of startups post-graduation, among other things. And so this past year, we were invited to be part of the ranking body with UBI Global because we've been #1 for a while. So they invited us to partner with them to do this ranking. And I'm happy to say that 3 of our Canadian incubators were ranked top 10 this past year, which we're really excited about, including UFT, McGill, and Cantech. So that's two incubators in Quebec as well. So it's been very significant for us. These create really nice hubs for startups, students to build these businesses and help develop the economy. And it's a real testament to our impact in Canada and how we're performing on a global level as well.
Thank you. So second question is going to be a little bit more deeper into startups in different ecosystems. So do you see, and this is like kind of a generic question, then I'm going to detail it back in the specific ecosystem that you guys are representing. Do you see like winning strategies that you see, for example, in different ecosystems, but also maybe you can focus on a specific one, you know? For example, for me, it's very exciting learning about India. I think that India is a very cool ecosystem that is growing a lot. So do you see already some winning strategies of startups there, or maybe like other winning strategy from startups that scale in other ecosystems that you see can really make the difference, Chris?
I'll be a little kind of self-serving and talk about what I've noticed. I've been in the venture kind of industry since 2009, and I was actually part of the group that launched the DMZ in 2010. I went to Ryerson, and it's been very interesting to watch the maturity in Canada and Toronto over the last 15 years. And I mean, just for an example, the lead researchers and one of the co-founders of OpenAI is from the research group that did the AlexNet project at the University of Toronto in 2012. And so it's been very cool to watch over the last decade and a half. Like I remember getting involved in startups in 2009, and the lack of maturity that exists in the ecosystem, and this lack of confidence, and we kind of always existed in New York and Silicon Valley's shadow. And I feel like Canada and Toronto's kind of come into their own a little bit more. Shopify, went public, it's gone on the NYSE, and it's been very heartening to watch that ecosystem go very immature to kind of figuring its way out to now getting to a spot of, you mentioned the PayPal mafia, to seeing entrepreneurs having large exits, going public, and having COOs that know how to take a company public, that know how have done 2 or 3 large companies, and starting to build that really sophisticated talent pool. And still a long way to go compared to, like, say, New York or the Valley or Tel Aviv. But it's been a cool progress to watch that, and I'm really excited to see how that investment of those who have kind of made it big in the last decade or so will give back to their ecosystem that made them. Some of them being friends and watching them from very humble beginnings, and I'm really excited to kind of see that maturity and seeing other incubators and accelerators grow, seeing operators go to large exits and start their own venture funds, to see those large venture funds starting off with small micro funds and becoming larger multi-$100 million, billion-dollar institutions. And hopefully one day kind of achieving something close to what the Valley's been able to do for the last couple of decades.
Nice, thank you. And Fabio, a similar question maybe related to the French ecosystem, because you guys have been great on top of growing the ecosystem, also growing startups. A lot of startups became unicorns, and in just a little bit of time, you guys were able to really grow a lot of unicorns, let's say that. What do you think is the secret of our winning strategy around that? Apart from the PayPal mafia, maybe, and the fact that there were a lot of people that could learn from each other while working at the same startup.
Yeah, okay, sure. So I I like to take the observation point of B2B, especially because we are a VC investing mostly in B2B, and we are a VC that also has an operation team. We call it operation service team that is has the objective of supporting, enabling, smoothing the cooperation between startup companies and corporates. I think in B2B space, especially when you talk about deep tech, maybe climate tech, it's important to have a winning strategy in order to scale, to collaborate the right way with corporates that can give you access to market, okay? And if I observe the difference between the French ecosystem and the Italian ecosystem, I see in Italy that in the last few years, a lot of corporates have created their open innovation offices, which is great. But they are realizing actually, where in France we've already realized to some extent, and we're trying to work against that the problem is not the Open Innovation Office. The problem is that the collaboration with startup companies scale only if that technology, that new business model, goes all the way up to business units. And so I think today what I observe in our own ecosystem is that startup companies that have possibly also at the early stage level don't even start talking to corporates if the corporates only can offer a POC, a proof of concept, until there is a clear roadmap that shows to the startups how I see this new technology implemented in that business unit within this time frame, with that budget. They don't even start. And this is important because as corporates, I don't know if there are corporate people in the audience, but as a startup, on top of having a lack of resources, lack of money, and therefore startups continually look for fundraising, new money, what they miss is time, which normally is a resource that corporates have, right? They let time go, kick the can down the road, while startups don't have time. So it's important to realize, in order to increase the maturity of an ecosystem, corporates, you have a role to play. And so if I can give a message today, is let's give ourselves the ambition of, let's say, stop talking about POCs and and let's try to give ourselves the opportunity to find the capability to think about implementation plans, think about how to fund a right budget, business budget, because this is the way that you will contribute to improve and to grow the ecosystem.
Thank you. Very good and great tips. Alfredo, I think, again, similar question. Winning strategy for European startups willing to scale in the global markets. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so, we've done so many engagements with young startups from all over the world. And, really there's three things that you need to do in order to be attractive to an investor in Silicon Valley. And we know that a lot of the early funding in European companies comes from grants from the EU or other government entities. And that's very different the way, a relationship with an investor in Silicon Valley is very hands-on. So there's three things you need to do. First thing is one of the co-founders needs to physically move to Silicon Valley. You don't need to move the whole company, just one decision-making management team founder. The reason for that is that Silicon Valley investors are not going to invest in a company that is outside of America. And it's not because they have something against Europe. It's because they want to build a partnership with the founder. It's that simple. Secondly, even before you start pitching investors, you have to focus on getting customers in the United States. They want to know that you can attract customers in the home country. In the U.S., in the United States. The fact that you are successful in Europe is interesting, but the business model is different. The product strategy could be different. So you need to demonstrate that you can attract American customers. If you can do those two things, then you get the attention of a Silicon Valley investor. And the final thing you need to do is invest heavily in sales and marketing expertise. I can tell you, having done this for so many years, every single country in the world sucks at sales and marketing compared to the United States. And that's just a fact. It's not my opinion, okay? It's the way the world works. So if you are asking for $1 million from an investor, a Silicon Valley investor will give you $5 million because they want you to spend the other $4 million in sales and marketing. Those are the three things you need to do.
Nice. I think I totally agree. Every time I'm coming to the US, I'm learning a lot about marketing. So, you know, like it's like doing an MBA in marketing every time I spend like 2 weeks in the US. So I totally agree with you. Alberto, let's move back a little bit and focus to corporates now. We talk a lot about success, how to make startups successful, but how do we work with corporates for successful innovation strategies?
Yeah, I'm going to build up on what Fabio said. I think that there's like a big mandate for corporations beyond or before creating open ecosystems or nurturing startups or accelerating startups. It's having a unique innovation vision. I mean, corporations need a North Star, and they need to know where are they going in the next 5-10 years. If they don't have that, probably the nurturing effort is not gonna work 100%. It's gonna generate frustration to the startups that they are nurturing, and it's not going to be compatible with the other innovation efforts the corporation is running on a daily basis. So that's the first thing for the mix to work. The second thing is you have to align all the innovation efforts. You cannot have M&A isolated from open innovation, isolated from corporate innovation. They have to be aligned, because if not, you are not going to use the full potential of a corporation mixing with a fresh, young startup. So that's the second lesson. And the third one is, this is an advice for corporations. Please, when accelerating a startup, do not transfer your pain points to the startup. You know? And I've seen this in different continents, not only Europe. When the corporation thinks that the startup needs some operating advice, and they try to send their own legacy to the new operation that the startup is bringing, and 99% of the cases that is not going to work. So those three advices, they're both for corporations to be very sure of what they're doing and the output they're going to take from their innovation efforts, and from startups. Startups, normally, they feel like a little blind because of the shine of the corporation. Don't do that. Try to identify what's the synergy beyond the money. And as Fabio was saying, try to leverage the time to market you can save with the help of the corporation. But don't let them kill you. Well, that's my advice.
Thank you. And Rose, I think that you have a specific experience of being between corporates and startups. How is your role in that facilitation role in Canada? Can you tell us?
Absolutely. So we provide a lot of introductions between corporates and startups to help startups leverage those relationships to build and grow and scale. And so one thing we really like to emphasize is diversity and taking advantage of our diverse networks in Canada. We really believe that diversity breeds creativity, and so we try to encourage our startups to take advantage of the different relationships and also provide an opportunity for them to take advantage of our government resources and access to things like our startup visa program. This is an opportunity to allow foreign entrepreneurs to actually bring their businesses and startups into Canada, the ones who have viable businesses, and we provide support with that as well. And it really allows entrepreneurs to bring their diversity to our economy. We also have a lot of universities who accept international students, which helps with that diverse talent pool as well, and helps breed more creativity and opportunities for collaboration between different corporate organizations, different startups, different investor networks as well. As Alfredo was mentioning with the new women program that they have, the DMZ has also recently launched a program with the YMCA to take advantage of the women entrepreneurship strategy as well, because we do understand that there's a lack in the market here. More support needs to be provided, so we have these resources in place to help with that.
Nice. Cool. Thank you very much. I think that we have still a little bit of time for one last question. So I will ask about, starting again from Chris. As you've seen, a lot of different ecosystem, but also this is more or less for the rest of the panel. Which is your tip? If you would have, to give a tip to Italian startups or startups in one ecosystem, what would be your tip for them for expanding into different areas or go-to markets in new markets, get into new ecosystem? What is going to be your tips or your unique tip to them?
A unique tip, I think it's been said already, which is, you need to be boots on the ground. You don't need to move your entire product team. I'm sort of, copying what we already said, but it's really good advice. You need to pick a market that is strategically significant for you. When I talk to startups, one of the biggest turnoffs very quickly is, just being interested in any market that says yes first. You need to strategically understand which market you're going to go to, why, and then be fully committed to do that. And that includes sending at least one co-founder or senior management to that market, boots on the ground, move there and be fully committed. It's very difficult to find the credibility in the eyes of customers if you are not immersed in that market, and it's even harder to find the credibility in the eyes of investors of that market unless you are there, and as I previously mentioned, if you've been able to validate in that market with customers already. So it has to be moving there first, finding customers there second, then you can find the investment third.
Thank you. Fabio, similar question for you. Tip on Italian startups maybe willing to go to France and establish also maybe like a partnership with a corporate, or trying to get in that collaboration ecosystem with corporates in France, expanding their market?
So I think in Europe it's a little bit different than in the US, of course. It's a little bit more challenging to execute a successful international strategy. And I'm not sure that France, for Italian companies, is the first market to go, so I won't say that. But, in general terms, I would say for founders, number one tip is start with English from day one, because I see still not enough mastery of English, at least spoken across all levels of the company, especially at the beginning. Second point, try to incorporate within your founding team some international experience. Having done that so in the past, with maybe even on different capacity, could have been like even on not in startup companies but in other organizations, having already network elsewhere in Europe, I think it's very helpful. And third, and maybe this is even the first point, be ambitious, because otherwise it will never work.
Thank you. I like the be ambitious. We really need that in Italy, because differently from the US and from people living in Canada or in North America, Italians are pragmatic, maybe too much pragmatic sometimes, because we are trying to undersell ourselves instead of oversell ourselves. So Alfredo, what's your take on this tip on adjusting for global expansion strategy?
Yeah, I have a fresh tip. There's a new movie that came out called Blackberry, and my Canadian friends, okay, I've seen it 3 times. And there is such an important lesson, especially for those engineer-driven founding companies. The important lesson here is investors love to see an engineer co-founder and a business co-founder. When we see two engineer co-founders, that is a big turnoff for an investor. Watch this movie, watch it again, and watch it again, and then watch it again.
What's the title? Sorry, can you repeat the title?
BlackBerry. Remember,
BlackBerry.
before the iPhone, there was the BlackBerry.
Ah, nice.
And that was everyone had a BlackBerry before they got an iPhone.
Nice. I'm going to watch it. Alberto, also your take on this expansion strategy, maybe like from more corporate and startup point of view. What do you think that corporate can take from startup if you're thinking about expanding their market and scale?
Yeah, I think for any entrepreneur, I mean, I'm sure they know, but the market size matters. So don't think locally. I mean, it's hard to tell, and it's hard to follow that advice. But I mean, if you think locally, maybe you have a great idea, maybe you have a great project, maybe you have the greatest team, and it just doesn't work because the market is not big enough for your idea. So that's my advice for any Italian entrepreneur. And my last advice would be, if anyone tells you, fail fast, run as quick as you can. Nobody wants to fail. I would replace that advice for nail it fast. So don't trust those who tell you it's okay losing money. It's not okay losing money. You might need to lose some money at the beginning, but all the investors are going to ask you for some KPIs very related to money making. So just run your business with common sense. Be brave. Don't trust the traditional models and go for it.
Thank you. And Rose, similar question, tips on for startups from your experience, what would you tell them?
Absolutely. So I would say understand and research the target market. So really knowing what are the regulatory requirements in that place that you want to expand to, what's the consumer behavior, what are the trends, what do you have to change to be in order to fit into that market. So really doing your research to understand that, taking advantage of any local institutions, organizations, leveraging those partnerships. You don't have to start from scratch. You can take advantage of what already exists to help tap into those new markets. And to be patient and persistent. You know, this takes time. So really don't give up, don't fail, and really keep going.
Cool. Thank you very much. I think that was all the questions that I wanted to ask, and thanks for all the insightful thoughts and opinions. I think that we were really deep diving into these ecosystem differences and really trying to get the much as we can from your European but also international experiences. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for who was in the audience listening to us, and thanks a lot for who was following from home with our live streaming. Enjoy the rest of your day as well, and I hope that we're gonna see you again next year. Bye.